Just relax and hopefully we will start slowly. Thank you.
Nigerians all over the world, our approach is to take the Nigerian universe. The diaspora is fully integrated. In the shadow team, there are at least 8 diaspora Nigerians based abroad who are in the shadow team. We meet every Wednesday virtually at the shadow team. So the shadow team goes back to its deep dive team and gets feedback from the deep dive team and brings it to the shadow team focal members, brings it to the shadow team, and then everything comes back to the candidates. That's how these iterations have gone on to where this manifesto is. And by the way, one of the things that we say about the manifesto is that it is a living document. That means we can change it tomorrow. Because knowledge today, in the 4th Industrial Revolution, changes so fast that 1 year after, everything could be obsolete. And so that manifesto will remain accessible to the whole country. People can comment as they like. If knowledge changes tomorrow and we can better achieve a certain goal, we change that part of the manifesto and put it back on the website. But the people will be able to continue to use it to hold the government accountable. So, in the process of actualizing, operationalizing that document, we came to a view that we need to bring the strategic thrust, how you can implement it, into full view. And the idea of how to implement it immediately meant what civil service can implement this. There's not service and implementation of public policy. He flew in from the UK and has been here for a week for us to have this session. So, an appropriate starting point of this conversation is gratitude. Gratitude to a collection of more than 40 highly placed professionals who have worked on this journey of producing this manifesto, running through it. No, I'm not talking about the shadow team and go. I just mean the for people who have worked on this process. Gratitude to so many people, to ordinary Nigerians who have stood up and said we need to change things in our country, which has inspired and motivated these people to make the kind of sacrifices that they have been making. So with this gratitude in mind, let me turn to just 1 or 2 words about how important, and this is what this roundtable will bring out, how important the business of the civil service, of public service, is in achieving this. In one of the presentations that has been prepared for today, offered to us by very highly regarded retired federal permanent secretary. You know, back in those days, the Ministry of National Planning was at the heart of the development that took place in this country in the 70s. All the top-notch civil servants in that ministry at the time was a gentleman who, of course, became permanent secretary, became a deputy governor when civil servants were senior ones in the transition arrangements. And eventually ended up as managing director of a bank, Chief John Edosian. Chief Edosian has, in the remarks he prepared that I'm going to share, that he's online, I'm going to share here, basically says that the quality of performance of a government is really a function of the quality of its public service. And so it is bearing this in mind that we have brought together public servants, experts, to begin a process. It's only the first of engaging on what kind of civil service we need. I mean, we have seen different iterations of forms of this, whether it's in Margaret Thatcher's compact with the British people, which General Obasanjo borrowed when he was inaugurated in 1999 and resulted in, what do we call it, that Tunjo Power was running. Telecom. One iteration. We have seen Tony Blair's service delivery unit concept. All of these experiences will inform and educate on how we sensitize the public service to be able to deliver on the promise of the manifesto. And Dr. Hadi Okorafor will lead us through, moderate this conversation. And when it comes to the somewhere down the line, I will present Chief John Edosian's own perspectives. Some of my own are already very well known, kind of, but I present his and get into the conversation. We're going to be done with all of this in less than 2 hours, so it's going to be an intense process. So we'll be out of here before 2 o'clock. So I invite to lead us through.
Thanks, Mark. One of the key misconceptions we've had about over the years about Nigerian civil service and public service, you hear throwaway comments like Nigeria has too many civil servants, too many public servants. You hear all that. But the reality is that we don't even have enough public servants in Nigeria. By comparison, let's say Nigeria has about 5 million public servants at local government level, state government level, and federal level. And that's the population of over 200 million. The United Kingdom, for instance, with a population of about 60-something million, has about 5.7 billion public servants. So compare that. And that's because that society has recognized that the public service is at the very core of society. And that's also because the public service is attending to most aspects of society that they are not dealing with at the moment in Nigeria. A typical Nigerian has its own personal infrastructure. you're running the generators, you're in street repairs, you're providing your own water resources, you are doing all sorts of things that ordinarily should be done at the community level instead of the individual level. No person in the United Kingdom would pay a council tax. If you pay a council tax, it takes away any issues of personal security because you can rest assured that your policing is taken care of. Your street vigilantes are taken care of. Your local road pothole repairs are taken care of. Basic stuff like that fall under your council tax. So all of us contribute in that pool, and we can now focus on our day-to-day life. A typical person in Nigeria would wake up, get ready for his day, and as he steps out of his house, he finds out that he's derailed by something as simple as NEPA or whatever it is. And you spend the rest of your day pursuing that utility. And by evening, you realize that you've not actually done anything. All you've done is trying to ensure that you are where to take. So that is the basic level at which we are operating in the Nigerian public service. A public service that is totally underutilized. It's underutilized in terms of what it produces. It's underutilized in terms of our expectations from it. It's also underutilized in terms of the reward system in the Nigerian public service. So the key takeaway, as Professor Utomi has hinted, is that at the end of this very intimate interaction we're having today, we should all as individuals have been put in a position where we are actively thinking about what we need to do as individuals, because all of us here, we are either public servants or we are customers of the Nigerian public service, or we are both. Simple as that. So we cannot be detached at any point without sub-optimizing our benefits as citizens of this country. So the takeaway for us is that we would have put ourselves in a position where we are able to say that the Nigerian public service is being recoupled in such a way that it is now an active driver of growth in this country. Active driver of growth. The public service is not a service where you go to patronize your family members or patronize members or patronize those who have come out of the third class. And you don't think they'll be able to hack it in the banking industry or in the tech industry. So you are passing notes left, right, and center so they can get a job in one public service institution or the other. we have to live here knowing fully well that that is not the path for the next phase of the Nigerian project. If you don't feel it, the reality is that there is change in the air in this country. It is palpable. If you are not feeling it yet, then you are probably sleeping. There is change in the air. The way the typical Nigerian visualizes its role as a Nigerian is changing drastically. The way the typical Nigerian visualizes the expectation from the people in government is changing drastically. It is no longer business as usual. And come next year, regardless of what the law is, regardless of whoever wins the election, it's irrelevant. The fact is that something fundamental has happened already. It has happened already. The way the Nigerian nation is being perceived and articulated by every one of us at various levels has changed drastically. I have reason. We are not born in Nigeria. In fact, they all have US, British, and Nigerian citizenship. So, actually, if Nigeria is not running well, they probably won't lose much at the personal level. But the reality is that the kind of conversation that we have right now, even at the family table, reflect what is really going on in Nigeria. They are asking questions about things as basic as casting votes in Nigeria, counting votes in Nigeria. What happens if the votes are counted and a different result is announced? How is that even a thing? How can you cast votes and a different result is announced? But the truth is that people, whether because of social media or whatever, people at every age grade are finally waking up to the reality that Nigeria cannot continue to slide forever. Even simple physics, law of physics, you slide to a point where you can slide no more. So perhaps it's just a natural occurrence that Nigeria has got to a point where it can't do it anymore. It just has to rebound. And a key factor in this rebound is a public service that is fit for purpose. It is not about academic qualification. It is not about social exposure. It's just about simple acts of responsibility. To give somebody a job, you empower that person to do that job, and you respect the output from that person in doing that job. It's as simple as that. There is no reason why a civil servant or a public servant would see his job as a part-time job and actually justify it to you by pointing at what he earns from that job. So the lady who is a secretary in a parastatal spends half her time selling textiles that have been sent to her by her brothers in America, because she's justified within herself that she's entitled to trade while at work, because her pay from her work is not a living wage. It is not enough for her to put food on her table. That is a reality that every one of us in this room has to recognize. That as long as we do not pull the Nigerian public service away from that and begin to transport the public service to what we have in serious countries like Japan, in serious countries like Germany, in serious countries where the public service is for the cream of the cream of society. The most intelligent people are in the public service because they are vested with the faith to protect the interest of everybody. So they are offering quality advice to the politicians. And they are enforcing sanctions of those who fall below the requirement. So, in the context of what I've said, we are going to be looking at today the basic definitional issues about public service, civil service, ministerial, parastatals, agencies of government, and every other one, so that we can actively understand just how beholden we are to the public service and just how much respect we ought to have for the public service, so that we don't see the public service as a place where we can go in and expect low standards. We can go in with a few thousand naira notes, expect them to circumvent the system, and we think that it's normal, just because we know that they don't earn enough money and we can easily corrupt them. We're also going to be looking at issues of ethics in the public service. The public servant is supposed to be honest, supposed to have integrity, supposed to be objective in applying the rules, supposed to be impartial. He's not supposed to treat me any differently than I treat her. But most importantly, the public servant is supposed to have the knowledge, the confidence, the capacity, and the ability to speak truth to power. The local government chairman shouldn't be able to get away with bad behavior simply because he's surrounded with civil servants or public servants who are dependent on him for handouts on a day-to-day basis because their basic salaries cannot take them home. And a spin-off of that is that we're going to be looking at staffing quality. As I said earlier, it's not about degrees and all that. It's about due process in recruitment, for instance. We talk about federal character all the time, but we all seem to do it selectively. We do federal character when it favors us. We don't do federal character when we think it's leveling the playing field. So we're looking at issues of training. What training is requisite? What training is required? What is the cost of training? How should it be structured so that we get the most mileage out of training? And how should the quality of that training and the quality of the recruitment reflect on the remuneration? Because the truth is that Nigeria is filled with people that are on the borderline. They are not naturally corrupt. However, they are driven into corruption by the desperation of their day-to-day existence. Those are the borderline cases, and they are growing with every passing day. where you have people that work for 7 months in states and they don't get a salary. And we take it as normal. And in those states, the governors are doing parties. And the governors are, some of them are actually running for re-election in such states, where you are not paying for salary, something as basic as that. You are not putting air conditioner in their offices. They cannot work because the place looks like a oven. Basic stuff like that. So for each and every one of us here, it should not be business as usual. If you ask me, I may be wrong. It's not an academic exercise I've done. Maybe I'm biased. I actually feel that the Nigerian public service gives more than it should, based on what we have entrusted in their hands. So, I would encourage everybody here to feed into this process, please. We have all had personal experience that may not have been had by others. My most intimate academic competency is tacit knowledge, where we are talking about knowledge that is available to you just for being you, as different from explicit knowledge. Imagine trying to teach somebody how to ride a bicycle. No matter how long you talk, the person will not understand because it's something you do naturally. You climb a bicycle, you balance it, you ride it. Put yourself in a position where you need to describe the process of riding a bicycle to the person next to you in such a way that the person would actually be able to balance himself on a bicycle, just because of the way you described it appropriately. So, just assume, because I'm going to make notes of everything that we have here. As Professor Utomi has already said, I am desperate for the Nigerian public service to get away from where we are right now. Very desperate. I'm prepared to do anything like it to make sure that we get to a point where we can have peace.
You'll just make some remarks about our manifesto and about the civil service that we need to bring this manifesto alive. Let me put this on speaker. Okay. Mr. Vice President, can you kindly speak to the roundtable?
Okay. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm honored to join you on the phone with you. we would like to work with the civil service and put from the living of the city. In waiting, this is what I want. And that is following the specific elements in our manifesto. So, design and policy. This much I can say for now because we are actively more than yeah, I'm going into the very now. So we're good for square about that.
And yesterday talking about these matters, and you were very clear in the fact that performance is really. Yeah, we'll continue. All right. Thank you very much for
Hello.
Yes, surely, yeah.
Yes, I can be. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. We also spoke about better conditions of service and regulation. We want to all across the public sector, all across.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. I'm really sorry about the thing at the airport.
Understandably, but thank you very much. Have a safe flight, and we'll continue. Best spoke to yesterday already.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me just finish about the point. As I was saying, he and I, and a couple of other members of our team, including Dr. Andy Guzman, met some foreign diplomats yesterday to explain our strategy and critical to what we're saying to them is that we compete if we're going to get a well-remunerated civil service. We cannot expect the public service to perform when we pay them like beggars. But as they begin to get well paid, they must perform at with leadership. And that will require well-trained, highly committed, very ethical, very patriotic civil servants. And we would like the process of building those habits in those public servants to start even before the government is inaugurated. And so this workshop, this roundtable, is designed as the first stage in that process. It will involve retuning a number of things. If you take the example of Singapore, The typical recruitment process in Singapore involves the finest, when you take your school size, whatever you want to call it, GCU level, the very finest top 5% get scholarships to go to any university they want in the world. Doesn't matter. And when they return, they are literally placed in the best private sector organizations. Work for this, that. Then after 2-3 years, they take exams and the best private sector performance enter the civil service. And they will work their way up to permanent secretary. And the best among the permanent secretaries become ministers. That's how they develop their leadership. It is not an accident, therefore, that every in the public service is outstanding. And their pay is commensurate to the best private sector pay. This is the kind of public service we are looking to build. Revive Nigeria. So I think just a long-running public servant to make his contribution. I'll try and summarize the presentation of Chief John Edozian, and then we can have a conversation amongst us in this track.
Good morning, all, and thank you, Professor Utomi, for gathering us together to talk about the civil service of the public sector. Let me very briefly collaborate the last thing Ross said about Singapore. I had actually invited the Minister for Education for Singapore to take part in a conference here on education in Port Harcourt. But it just happened that I also had to go to Singapore, and I told that I could meet him to work out the modalities for his coming to Nigeria. But while we were in the air, he was removed as the Minister of Education. Now, he was not sacked. He was appointed to head a committee that is still working to visualize what Singapore will be in the next 50 years. He was appointed to visualize what Singapore will be in the next 50 years. But we met and we walked out of the hotel together and had a continual chat at outside the reception of the hotel. And when we are done, his car came. He got into his car, he left. My taxi came. I got into the car. To my greatest surprise, the taxi driver was bubbling with joy. He said to me, "Do you know the minister? I see your friend." I said, "Oh, we've just met." He said, "Oh, he was my classmate." And I looked at the taxi driver. I said, "The minister was your classmate?" He said, "Yes." He was very intelligent. That was why he went to the university, and we went to technical school. Because the minister was very intelligent and the best in his class, the guy automatically believed that being his friend, I must also be intelligent. Automatically. But the point I want to make was the point Pat made. We need absolutely to retool the civil service. There's no doubt about that. Let's not make a mistake. The civil service or the public sector or the civil service itself is the engine of the government. It's like having an issue car of your engine, for example, is not working. You know what you will go through. In a similar way, that is what we are going through in this country today. But guess what? The fault actually is not so much with the civil servant or the, but completely has to do with the system itself. Because the rules are there. Operating the rules becomes a problem. Because the big guys at the top violate the rules. And so why would you expect the civil servants not to violate the rules? There's a training gap, there's a knowledge gap. In comparison with the private sector, particularly the financial system, we are not doing enough training in the public sector. We are not doing enough training in the public sector. And we actually, must find a way to begin to do the proper training for civil servants. And this has to be across the board. We are very fond of focusing on the federal government. And everything wrong in this country is all about the federal government. But the reality is that it is worse in the state. I'm not even sure civil servants do much in the state. I've seen instances where, because the governor was not in the state for about 2 or 3, you go to most of the ministry, you don't find anybody. So it boils down to the leadership of the political leaders. The political leaders from the OBJ and the military years, when they started this massive retirement, when folks like me joined the ministry, we had leaders of the civil service who were prepared to teach us. And of course, they had students who were prepared to learn. By the time I left the civil service, you now have leaders who were not prepared to teach, and you have people who were not prepared to learn. And that's what continues till today. So, if we have to change this service, we must do some of the things that Prof has said. We have to look at the issues of ethics. And this is very important because the rules are there. But because things have gone so wrong and nobody wants to enforce the rules, and everybody is enjoying the fact that the rules should not be, let me just give you one example. In the civil service rules or regulations, ministers are supposed to fly business class, along with permanent secretaries, directors, and the rest, economy. But when ministers started flying first class, of course, a number of permanent secretaries upgraded themselves, and directors equally followed. So if another permanent secretary decides to enforce the rule and say to his own staff, we have to play by the rules, that permanent secretary is considered a bad person. Now, have a comparison again. Let's go back to Singapore. We want at a meeting as the Prime Minister. Are you saying to us that nobody breaks the rule in this country? Civil servants don't misbehave. They are not corrupt. He talked for a while and he said, I'll be lying if I say occasionally we have some bad eggs. And he said this year, 2 people were caught doing ABCD. He said, but we deal with it in such a way that nobody will attempt doing it anymore. If you deal with it in such a way in this country, you know where you will end up. For example, as a permanent secretary with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I tell this story very often. I refuse to listen to the President of the Senate to change the posting of an officer, simply because we have started implementing the posting, and it will create a lot of problems to do otherwise. I met him 1 week ago at a function in the State House here. The guy refused to shake my hand. Of course, you know what that means. That who the hell are you to say no to my request? And this is part of the problem, because it goes down to the recruitment process, to the tremendous amount of outside influence affecting the proper running and administration of the civil service. It has become something like a dog-eat-dog because civil servants refuse to sit down and work, and they go outside to put extra pressure on the system. So except the political leaders stay a little bit at home and let the system run the way it should be managed, it should be expected to run and manage. And I think, if for nothing else, in my humble opinion, this is why we need to retire all those who've been responsible for where we are today. And let's see whether we can start on a new slate. You see, the man you did not know coming to office will be feared, and people will change. That was what happened when Muritala first made his broadcast to this nation. Every civil servant, if you want to tell the truth, everybody came to work as early as 8 o'clock. Why? Because somebody said, and I quote, "That man, when I see, God knows what he can do." Automatically, just one major strong speech projected a strong leader, a determined leader to correct the system. And everybody sat up. And here's what I'll say about, I'm not campaigning, but I'm saying this. The fact that a new president unknown comes in, wins an election, everybody is going to step back and say, look, we need to wait and see what this man will do. Former VP, we know very well. Brought Uncle Bola, we know very well. But Peter Obi, let's take it easy. Let's see what we do first. And almost automatically, things will change by about 40% before the rest of the percent will be brought in. But there's no doubt in my mind that we need to do a lot of work to reshape the civil service, to make the civil service of today less transactional. Transaction has killed the civil service. And that is why when you look at the budget, why do you think we have tons of budgets? And nobody has paid the price for having the budget. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs now buys arms for this country. It is headed by people who are not military. They have never gone to military school. Some have never seen AK-45, apart from the ones, but they are going to have billions or trillions to buy arms. How? And the rest of us, almost all of us, we keep quiet and allow these things to happen. The last thing I will say, if we want the civil service to work very well, we must all rise up and challenge the system. Because for me, I keep saying it these days, and I give 2 examples. And I think Prof. and have said it here. The number of civil servants, it's not the population size, it's not the question of the size. It's the fact that most people don't even know what to do. I give you a typical example. If you go out to Hilton, at the Hilton Junction, there's a police car. I'm sure many of you have seen that police car there. Opposite, there's a petrol station where people, when Nigerians have the opportunity to show their irresponsibility, they actually display it. So there's a fuel crisis, everybody struggles to get in, the road is blocked. There's crisis, there's problem, there's breakdown of law and order. You have the police car sitting down there, the police are outside there. They are watching law and order break down, and they are sitting down doing nothing. And you go to them and say, look, help clear this so that traffic can flow. They don't say to they will sort themselves out. The British or the American police can never tell you that. In fact, if they stand and they see, they'll get out of their car and resolve that problem. And it's the same thing you find in almost all parastatals. Some parastatals don't even know their mandate, so they do something else. They do something else. So Public service, the civil servant will have to be taught to appreciate what their mandates are, imbibe their mandates, and deal with their mandates. I've always argued, and I'll continue to argue, money is not the problem of the Nigerian police force. Money is not the problem of the Nigerian police force. A police force that collects vehicles from every state government annually. We are the vehicles. We are the vehicles. So when it comes to vehicles, the Nigerian police should be asked to explain all the vehicles they've collected since 1999 to today. In this country, you have private cars that are more than 20, 25 years old. But the problem is the management. The problem is the proper utilization. The problem is, what is their job definition? Are they carrying out their responsibilities? And that is why we probably have to set up a chapter on to chaperone the civil service. Because when you look at the financial sector, why are they doing so well? Why are they being careful? You have about 5 or 6 or 7 agencies supervising the financial sector in this country and elsewhere. Who is chaperoning, who is supervising the civil service? Nobody. And certainly not the minister. And so these are part of the reforms that I believe will have to be put in place. And hopefully, come next year, if things change, we can begin to talk about how to rebuild the civil service. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Perhaps I should just quickly make the remarks of Chief John Idozien, and then pass it on to Manny. It's a long, not too long, but a long, it's a slightly long presentation. So I'll just read the first couple of pages that they stop. It will aid our conversation. Maybe I can bring up the headlines of the rest of the presentation. But let me just corroborate something from what Ambassador Keshi has just said. You know, there's a case of a minister in Singapore who was a very close friend to the president when he was president. There was word that he was discussing a possible bribe with some companies. The rumor went out, and he heard that the rumor got to the prime minister. He said, rather than face his friend, he committed suicide. He didn't collect the bribe. The issue was raised for discussion. And the shape of his allowing the discussion, close friend of the prime minister, led him to committing suicide. I give you a Nigerian example across the better times, by the way. This story is repeated by another ambassador of the civil servant of note, Dr. Papora. A minister who was very close to Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa traveled to his hometown, Abeokuta. Okay, the car, ministerial car, had a breakdown. They stopped at the mechanic and fixed it. And they came back, the minister submitted the receipt, proper receipt for the breakdown, for the fixing of the car. Permanent secretary queried it because he looked at the date of the receipt and realized it was a Saturday. The minister was not supposed to be using official vehicles outside of government working hours. And as a result of that query, the minister was supposed to be removed. But Balewa was very pained because he was one of his closest allies in the cabinet. But the permanent secretary insisted on the discipline being followed. And the prime minister then begged the permanent secretaries to please accept an alternative punishment of demoting the minister to a smaller ministry. This was Nigeria. Cabinet reshuffle took place as a result of it. This is one car for one minister, not to be used on Saturday. Today, when the minister is going to his village on Sunday, do you know how many cars go with him? So things have gone bad, and what we need is to rescue our country from a collapse of culture. What has happened is a collapse of, and we really do need to deal with this. Of course, going back to Singapore, another minister actually just accepted a ticket to go on vacation from a company. Just a ticket. Didn't do anything. He didn't give them anything back. He just said, minister, you want to go to this next country? No, we'll buy a ticket. He lost his job when it became known. There are challenges of ethics that we have to really come to terms with if our country is going to make progress. But to Chief John Edozian, who has introduced earlier, and this remarks the role of the civil service in good governance and national development. And he goes, the civil service has a role to play in a country's good governance and national development, where the role is positive and purposeful, and the service is vibrant and possesses the qualities of integrity, honesty, objectivity, and impartiality. It is reflected in a government that is high-performing, stable, value-driven, and able to deliver on its core. Firstly, where the role is not positive and purposeful, the civil service is lacking in self-confidence, integrity, and honesty, objectivity, and impartiality. This is reflected in a government that is unstable, low-performing, corrupt, emotion and propaganda-driven, and unable to deliver on its core mandate. This relationship between the civil service is perhaps what is at the heart of the saying that deserves the government it has, and the government deserves the civil service that it gets. End of quote. It's always a matter of enlightened self-interest for a government to deliberately seek to nurture and evolve a dynamic, responsive, and well-trained and help it to deliver on its programs. In regimes where the civil service is treated as an irritant to be ignored, weakened, sidelined, and maligned, and at best regarded as a tool in the hands of the political class to be manipulated, the civil service could easily lose its focus and become quite dysfunctional. The civil service is therefore the backbone of the government, being its main instrument for developing and implementing its policies and programs. Put in that context, this is a vital part of government machinery, and its role is decisive in ensuring the stability of governance, its quality, and ability to perform and push the frontiers of national development. Any attempt made by government to deliberately weaken it is counterproductive and is therefore like cutting one's nose to spite its face. The civil service, bureaucracy, and good governance. Evidence abounds to support the thesis that high-performing nations are invariably identified with a stable, efficient, and effective bureaucracy provided by the civil service with long-held traditions of probity, integrity, and transparency. There, the civil service has gained the respect of the political class who respect the boundaries in their relationship with the service. In such society, systems, processes, and structures play an important role in defining the civil service and ensuring its contribution to good governance. The question therefore arises, what is good governance Why is it important for social and economic development? In a paper produced by the OECD, it is stated that, quote, good governance as expressed through factors like reliability, predictability, and accountability is increasingly seen as a key factor in ensuring national prosperity. End of quote. It is therefore stated that good governance depends on an ability to exercise power and to make good decisions over time across a spectrum of economic, social, environmental, and other areas. This is linked with the government's capacity for knowledge, mediation, resource allocation, implementation, and maintenance of key relationships. There are many factors to define governance and good governance. However, there seems to be a general consensus that the key factors include technical and managerial competence. Technical and managerial competence of civil servants is an obvious factor of good governance. Rapid changes in society require ongoing development of skills. 2, organizational capacity. Good governance has to be built on the quality of organization so that the development is based on this rather than on simply relying on political will, the personal will of a strong leader and state power, which may not be sustainable over a longer term. Having skilled staff is not sufficient if the government organizations do not have the capacity to make good use of these skills. The capacity of government organizations is a key factor in the provision of many important services to business and the public, and creating conditions for economic progress and social cohesion. The organizational structure and management system of government have been reformed in many OECD countries. The third, I just skip it now, reliability, predictability, and the rule of law. I think we know what that means, so let me just skip to the next of it. Accountability. Accountability can be both an end in itself, representing democratic values, and a means towards the development of more efficient and effective organizations. Political and public servants are given enormous power through the laws and regulations they implement, resources they control, and organizations they manage. Accountability is a key way to ensure that these powers are used appropriately in accordance with the public interest. Accountability requires clarity about who is accountable to whom, to what, for what, and that civil servants, organizations, and politicians are held accountable for their decisions. And transparency and open information system. I will skip the details for you to know what else. 6, participation. Participation can involve consultation, the development of policies and decision making, elections, and other democratic processes. Let's keep again. It follows that the role of civil servants in the development of good governance is a critical factor in the efforts to achieve national goals, prosperity, especially the era of globalization. The major challenge, therefore, for countries undergoing rapid change is the ability to establish an effective and socially responsible bureaucracy, or in other words, an efficient and innovative civil service. These are badly needed to support the emergence of good governance. I will cut here, it goes on and on, but we've got the basic essence of the point that Chipedosian was trying to make here. And then he walks us through phases of our history. Phase 1, 1960 to 75, how the civil service fared in that era, then turns to later epoch. What we know for sure is that the phase 2 is 75 to 1999, and the next phase is coming from 1999 to now. What we do know is that the civil service now far underperforms the civil service of 1960. Our challenge is how to rebuild it and to make our country work for our. We face an existential challenge in Nigeria. Just look at our population and the rate of growth of that population. If we don't create enough jobs for these millions of children, and they will amount about 450 million people in the next couple of decades in this country. Do you know what chaos there will be here? Somalia will be a joke. So we need the kind of civil service that understands the existential challenge that we face, and will work with political actors to bring about a reaping of a demographic dividend from our population and creating of conditions that help us to have people who can have a high quality of life and be proud that they are Nigerian. I would like to use that to summarize, if you do these remarks and return to Harry.
Okay. I think we will try to put the floor open very soon, but we want to take a few interventions here on the high table, and then that will obtain to the audience. I want to start with Professor, I will say Prof. Dr. Isaac Converters, and then to go around and to the audience.
Okay, my name is Dr. Isaac Goja. I'm a medical doctor by training, and my career has been in the public service, international public service with the United Nations. I retired recently, a few years ago. I totally subscribe to what has been said so far, and I think that all of us who listen and who have experienced what public service and public systems in Nigeria is today will agree that we very urgently need a lot of changes. But because my own area is health, and specifically I'm a public health specialist, I'll be a little biased in my comments. And I would like to pose some questions that we don't have time to answer them, but for us to think about. If you look at the country today, we would ask, one of the first questions I would ask is the healthcare system and structure that we have now going to be able to cope with the growing Nigerian population? I think the answer would be no. If we would ask, do we then need a health sector reform? Should things change? I think the answer would be yes. Are we prepared for emerging health challenges, emerging diseases that would go with the increasing population? I think the answer would be no. And if you have been listening to the media recently, you've noticed and you'll be hearing of brain drain, Nigerians leaving the country. But it's more pronounced in the medical sector, in the health sector. Almost all our nurses have gone to Canada, UK, Australia, and other places where they would earn more money. Almost all our doctors have left the country. I have only one boy, and I prayed that God would help him to succeed me, especially in my career. So I trained him, sent him to University of Ibadan. Was one of the most brilliant doctors, young doctors. He left the country a year ago for postgraduate training. And from my discussions with him, he might not come back so quick. I'm trying to hold him and to make sure he comes home. But if things are not enticing and appetizing for him and encouraging to him, it will be difficult. And this is for me, who is a doctor. Think of other parents who have young nurses, young doctors that have migrated abroad, and how difficult it will be for them to bring them back. Finally, if we have to stop this medical tourism that we are talking about, we need to do a lot of things. In line with our discussion of public service and the way things should change. How can you explain to anybody that all our ministers, all our permanent secretaries, all our directors take annual medical leave to go and do medical checkup? You may not be aware of this. Well, once you are a director here, you can go abroad for medical checkup. Even what our hospitals here in Abuja can do, they go for them. I was discussing with somebody and he told me, I know my blood sugar level, I know my cholesterol level, because I just did my medical checkup in London. My goodness. All the hospitals you have here can do that. Do you have to go to London and give them the money that you don't have? Things need to change. And this change will start with our mindset. I trained in America. And while I was training there in America, there were many Nigerians that came for postgraduate training from University of Nigeria, Nsukka, Ibadan, ABU, University of Benin, different hospitals in Nigeria, training schools in Nigeria. And I can tell you, they were as good as any other doctors trained from other countries. I did not find any deficiency among the Nigerian doctors that came to train in America when I was a medical student in America. As a matter of fact, one of the best surgeons that I had when I was a medical student was a Nigerian from Gombe State. We nicknamed him Dr. Bang Bang because in 1 hour, 2 minutes or something, he has finished surgery that would have taken some doctors 1.5 hours. One of the best surgeons that I had trained me was from Ghana in America. So if we have all these capabilities, what then is our problem? The number one problem is our mindset. And this is where, for me, we need to change from. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Isaac. All right.
What comes to mind from what you just said is that it looks like the situation we have in Nigeria is that of chicken and egg situation. Which comes first? The public servants we have in Nigeria, are they a product of our system, or is the system the egg that has been produced by the kind of public servants we have in Nigeria? Remember, I said at the beginning that all of us here are either public servants or customers to the public service, or both. Bear that in mind while you intervene. Thank you.
I think if we must have a change in this country, we must have certain things put in the right place. One, we're now talking about Okay. We're not talking about civil servants that must not have seen their salaries for 7-8 months, but you still find them going to work. So how do they, have you asked yourself how they transport themselves to the office and why they still go to the office while they're being owed for 8 months? It's because of the corrupt system. Because the system is corrupt. Nobody's asking them why they're not coming to work, because nobody cares to know why they're not coming to work, and nobody cares to know why they've not received their salary. And it doesn't mean anything if they don't receive their salary because they have other means they use in collecting funds. So the whole system is bad right from the head to the toe. It's bad. Have you asked yourself why somebody on level 7 would want to kill the children because he feels the children is stealing him for not making enough money, for not building houses? It must be caused by the children because some of them must have gone into witchcraft or any other thing like that, evil attachments like that, and that's why they are against it. And have you asked yourself what happens to the contractors? Why they drop so much? Have you asked yourself why? Because you know this job is what the worth of this job is 100 million. And you find out they're giving the job to one Peter. Have you asked yourself why it is like that? Because for them to receive their payment. They've done a job for over 5 to 6 years now, and they've not received the payment. They must have borrowed the money from the bank. They must have collected the money from somewhere else. And you know, only for 7 years, they will remove money they got to that contract. Like I know in my factory, all these blue chip companies come and place an order there. And once you supply them, you don't need to, once it is 7 days of in your account, you don't need to see anybody before you receive your payment. So if we start on that level to think about our civil service, I think we'll be doing a separate job. Because nobody is caring. Have you got to the Ministry of Finance? You don't see anybody there. They've all gone. So you but you don't they will say, oh, today is Friday. So if today is Friday, that then somebody should come to work. So that's the mindset we all have about it. Go to the ministry. Some of them, like you said, some of them do just tell their activities, and that's why they go to the ministry. They're not going there to work there. So I think if something must be done, well, my mother would always tell you and tell me that anything that is difficult must be done by human beings. And that if we have that mindset, we will get it right. But if we don't have that mindset, we will never get it right. That's just the truth. We will start from the beginning to from the head to the toe. It's a total overhauling of the ministry, of our mind, of everything about us. And once you get it right, Vice President, how they're going to achieve this, and I don't know, because it's a difficult thing. Because we have outgrown this, we have attached so much importance, negative importance. You ask yourself, a governor will be doing birthday party, and will spend millions while he has not paid the workers for 8 months, for 1 year, for 2 years. And you still find them go to work, and you still find them in one is asking for re-election. Every one of them is saying, oh, you must our man. Stop this. Not get this thing done the right way. We have achieved that. So it's working on our mindset and putting the system in the right perspective. That's my hope. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. And I thank you for being here. What we're trying to do as a party, as a movement, is to revolutionize our country, to turn things around for the better. And the way to go is
to do things unusually, because we've come to a trajectory in our country where the abnormal is usual and the usual abnormal. So what we're trying to do as a party, as a movement, as a big tent, is to engage with you to show you how what I'd rather call a work plan as a work plan unusual, a work plan different from what the others have. There's no gainsaying the fact that you're aware that in 2014, 2015, one of the parties on the other side threw before the Nigerian people an 80-point manifesto, which are preponderantly what we've come to know as 80 unfulfilled promises, 80 lies of the party on the other side. And just a few months ago, they threw again at the Nigerian people 82 lies on which they have established their intention to run Nigeria totally aground. But what we have, like our principals clearly stated, is a document we'll call It's Possible, P-O stable. And truly, a new Nigeria is possible. But fundamentally, he has said that at the core, and that's what the manifesto has said, that we will walk the path of restructuring. In one of the items in the manifesto, he did talk about, which of course is my major interest as a trained lawyer, he did talk about reworking the legal framework to make our country effective, efficient, and effectual, if you like. And I think that that's fundamentally the way to go, because you cannot get the civil service to be responsible and responsive without a legal framework that excites commitment, a legal framework that extracts dedication, a legal framework that commits people to patriotism and strong values and leadership. Peter Gregory has said in uncertain terms that we must change the way things happen here. And when we talk about restructuring, oftentimes some people are perfidious in trying to give the impression that you want to make the system unequitable. Some are saying that, oh, the restructuring will not favor the North. But the truth is that restructuring, if there's any section or region that it will favor the most, is the North. Because, as it were, if you were to control your wealth sizably and contribute to a federal fund, contribute to the coffers where you will have to support in ensuring that the state is able to attend to emergencies. The North is the richest in our geography. The North has monstrous wealth buried in its soil. So if you were to allow restructuring along those lines, you find out that, like Peter Gregory has noted, that the North will be the next mine of resources and wealth for our country. And that's what we need. We need to drive our country on the path to commitment, to progress, to production over consumption. If you were to wonder what happened in the First Republic and what is happening today, successive administration took our country away from production, from creativity, and turned it into a rent-taking and a rent-seeking enterprise. And so the wealth of groundnut, the wealth of sesame, the wealth of arable wealth has been rendered insignificant in our effort to move this country forward. And Peter Gregory will be saying it's got to be movement from consumption to production, and that's the way to grow our country. Surprisingly, you will find out that the reason we're where we are is because, like the schoolboy would say, everybody's property is nobody's property. The reason most people do not know, I'm from the Niger Delta, the reason you have 1,001 pipelines stealing crude oil from the Niger Delta is because that wealth is nobody's wealth, it's everybody's wealth. And then when the world where things run this way, there is no federation in the world that runs like us. No, even China. Even in China, where you have a strong center, you have the Communist Party, which sections sectorial control. That is why some people are saying that China is deceiving the world, that China is not truly communist, that China is more of a welfarist state than a communist state, because you have the regions. Google it, you find out that you have structural control from bottom top. But unfortunately, what you call a federalism is a lie. What we have at best is a unitary system, and you wonder why there are people stealing gold in Zamfara. You wonder why people are killing for mineral resources across our country, because nobody owns it. The federal government will tell you where they own it, and then you license crude oil to individuals who deal with it the way they want. So we must effectively walk the path of restructuring. We must work such that our local governments are able to listen to what is in their territory, setting agreed emoluments, resources, or percentage of the wealth to the state and then to the center. That way you can figure progress across the country, because all over the world, the greatest wealth is both human resources and mineral resources. But above all, if you check the list of the 10 richest men in the world, about 7 of them dwell on human resources. So Peter Gregor is talking about, in part of the manifesto, leapfrogging our country to the realities of the fourth revolution, which is the human capital. And part of the reason we're where we are also is because we have not prized or put fundamental primacy on education. And he is the one who has talked about it the most. We have a 72-page manifesto that speaks to the issues concerning our country. And it's deeply instructive that this working document, we're confident will be able to trigger the development, the evolution of a new Nigeria. And I believe that if every Nigerian who truly believes that we need a new deal and a new day is committed to patriotism, if we truly want our country to progress and work for the good of all, because he did say in the manifesto that we want to build a country where no Nigerian is left out or left behind. You know, so fundamentally, we crave your indulgence to look at it with us, to come along with us as we journey towards taking our country away from the madness to promise, as we journey together into the future that is most certain, as we journey into making and electing leaders who will be responsible and responsive to our country, as we journey into the new day and the new dawn that the masses of our country envisage and expect. And I believe that together with you, the media, and together with every well-meaning Nigerian, the hope that we present is certain and realizable. God bless you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul. And we want to take your intervention from the audience. Okay, I don't know how we're going to do it now. 1, 2, a quick one, 50 minutes, please. Okay, but we want to leave here by 2 or before 2. Yes, just a quick one, just go straight to the point. And then, okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5, that's all. Your name and your organization platform.
Thank you very much. My name is Godfrey Edosian, Godfrey Edosian. There are 6 or 7 people on the high table. But please permit me to sincerely appreciate Ambassador Ambassador Keshi, and Professor Pat Utomi. I'm excited that they are part of this Labour Party, and I believe that sincerely your names will make a lot of inputs in this party for us to move forward. Having said this, I retired from the presidency 13 years ago, having worked in the Federal Ministry of Education for 20 years, and then moved from there to Petroleum Trust Fund, National Planning Commission, Bureau Service Commission, Bureau of Public Service Commission. And during this period, I thought that we had a wonderful outing by way of public service. This was in the 70s and 80s. The present public service is unfortunately nothing to write home about. And this is where we are today. From something better, instead of getting better, it's getting worse because of the operators of today. 13 years ago that I retired up to this present time, I've been very busy in the area of human capacity building. I train staff of federal service in the area of education and planning, my master's and doctorate in educational administration and planning. I want to say this, that when you fail to plan, you have planned to fail. What we are doing here today is preparation. What we are doing here today is planning in order for us to succeed. And when I was invited by Pat Utomi, and then it was keyed into public service, I said, whoever has done this has got it right. Because public service is the engine room of the nation. Once you have gotten public service right, you have gotten everything right. So for us to come here, I am praying that somebody mentioned about work plan. If we have gotten the work plan, we need to present it and let us get the right people to dissect it and make sure that we get what it takes in order for us to make progress. If we don't have it, we should be able to have a small committee that will put on a working document for us to present to the bigger house, for us to look at it and then make sure that that is exactly what we want. I just came in a week ago from United States, Baltimore, Maryland, to be precise. I interacted so much with Nigerians in Baltimore in respect to P2P. I personally believe in P2P. It's not because I'm an Igbo man, but it's because I've seen that there is something in this man. Even the governor of Anambra State and all that he has said, he said, go and find out. The records are there for anybody to see. And the records are there for anybody to see what he has done. If given the right platform and the right environment, I believe P2P will make it. Please let us have a committee that will look into this area of public service. Like I rightly pointed out, it's the engine room, and once we're able to get it right, we are getting it right. And finally, in conclusion, I want to mention 3 stages of success in life. The first one is the input. The second one is the process stage, and the third one is the output. What happens at the output level is determined by your input and your process. If you're able to get your inputs right, the people who will be able to get it right and then make sure that the process is done right, the output becomes successful. And what I want to share with you now, as a classical example, is some women are here, and I believe that they understand what I'm saying. Give 10 women, ask 10 women to prepare a pot of soup, as a classical example, and give them ingredients, each and every one of them the same ingredients, whatever ingredients, whether they are 10 or 12 or 15, give to each of them and then ask them to prepare a pot of soup. I can assure you, by the time they finish, the output, the test of the food is different. Yet they have the same ingredients. What makes the difference is the process. So those processes that we have to, at the time you put it in, what you put at the level and what you do, it determines what is the output. And therefore, I am praying to Almighty God that whatever we do here and what we are going to do at the outer level will be the issue that is going to help us as labor party in order to make sure that come 2023, that Utomi is going to be an end of everything.
Thank you very much. We certainly we cannot take everybody to speak. Just 2 minutes, please. Thank you. My name is Emeka Omoja. I'm currently the advisor to the Presidential Campaign Commission. Let me just try and take through what I want to say. I was very excited when I said Jeremy to speak. You know, but because we got to amplification that somebody got nearer to hitting the nail on the head. Timo actually has a book that shows the problem with Nigeria. And that entire book survived and the problem with Nigeria is the failure of leadership. So some of the things that are wrong with Nigeria is that some shy away what makes people up. I have always been mostly been in the public sector. I was assistant to the Jordan for 4 or 5 years. And I've also worked with everybody. I've done some work with them, but not very private in committees and all that. And I realized personally that the corruption of policy or here and traditional security is one of the biggest matters in Nigeria. Let me go over that again. The corruption of policy priority, traditional security is one of the biggest problems of the country as a whole. Now, let me give you 1 or 2 or 3 examples that personally come across in Nigerian military. Now, the PSA was close to personally some years back. And each time he comes into his office, he sees different faces all the time. And there were 10 desks in the office, the outside of it. So he asked, give me a list of all those who are in the office. They had a list of about 87 workers. And the economy, come down from there and he brings them down Saturday. So 10, 20, I don't like this and community with each and big. So when you have 10 or 10 inside, the rest of you, oh, come in, where is Michael? Oh, where is that is how we. So we need a responsible and have leadership in Nigeria. That's something without mindset. Things remain the same. That's the case. So you all clarify what that here.
horror. It was felt in every of it. So it's human quality that will change. The magical manifesto. You know, we do well. We need confidence, sincerity, integrity, and courage. Somebody who takes the true interest and who is strong enough to implement changes that take the organization. Someone that takes the natural development.
Thank you. Next. If you exceed 2 minutes, I will interrupt you. Okay, go ahead. Better. Okay. I'm happy speaking. My name is Gado. I'm a civil servant. I'm a director, but I will exit next year. So I want to lay the foundation. Getting to the point, civil service, we need to reform the system. The public service rule we are using was written by Ashford and Ashford and the other man. Okay, I'll remember his name. Yes, we're using it today. Tomorrow I'm going to Latvia, where we're a capacity building workshop. They are giving us mileage in this age and time. So my first, what I'm standing here to say are the solution to this problem. Then number two, do you realize that Mr. President is the number one civil servant? Does it cross your mind? The president of Nigeria is the number one civil servant. It's the number one public servant. Will you give what you don't have? When you don't have civil service background, you don't have civil service training, what will you give? Please. So what I'm saying, I'm praying God that that will come in. That coming in with a very good knowledge. When I mean knowledge, I mean somebody mentioned capacity in civil service. They employ the work in civil service. Oh, sorry, please. So I'm suggesting that next year, there will be a very good reform in the civil service. And the best thing was called to the system because it's didn't have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Ambassador Joseph Atudu, the immediate past Minister for Trade, Economics and Investment at the Nigerian High Commission in Ottawa, Canada. And I retired in January this year and came back home. And as God has always helped me, I looked at the principal candidate running for the presidency of our beloved country, and my spirit accepted the Peter Obi presidency. And I kept the ground running. I've been doing things at my level to the grassroots. I won't say that here, but being protocol-based people or person, let me speak just a few remarks to the reason why we are here today. And I begin by commending Prof and the Big Ten for organizing this event. Listening to you on the high table and hearing your recognition of the civil service as crucial to delivering good governance can not be anything but very strong encouragement to my heart. You know, we in the civil service, I started for 31 years and 4 months before I rolled out. And you ask yourself, you graduated from the same university with this person. We are all working for government. why are we earning slave wage? You're recognizing to restructure the public service, to review the salary of civil servants. I must say that is a panacea for the fight against corruption in governance in this country. And I want to thank you, and to thank you, and to thank you, and to implore number two, all of us here. Peter Obi cannot become president if we sit where we are in the comfort of our room in our homes. I moved my polling unit from Garki here to my ward in Alpha. This time we are saying we put money and we are mobilizing people. Let all of us go to town to work. And we are also praying. I want to say that I have a big belief in my heart that people will click the president. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Permission to speak. My name is Jimba Goyo. I am with Business Nigeria, the Northeast Zonal Coordinator for Business Nigeria. I'm grateful to have been invited for this discussion. I have only three major points to just mention. All protocols do get observed, please. Thank you. So one of the things I noticed, I used to be a civil servant a while ago. I started my career as a civil servant, but after 7 years, I resigned. I just couldn't handle the pressure, lack of pressure, lack of everything, lack of drive, lack of commitment. Everything that you can imagine, I would just make you feel as if you're not doing anything. You're just sitting down and spending money that is not even worth it. So I just left. And then I joined the development world, Water Aid, USAID, World Bank, and what have you, along the time. And right here in Nigeria, if you are working for any of these organizations, just like what Prof said, mentioned earlier about managing a car, just your official car alone, you can't just use it anyhow. You can't use it for personal, you can't use it for your personal use, you can't use it for anything. Actually, right here in Nigeria, we don't even have to go too far to gain this skill or this knowledge. But there's one thing I have noticed about our civil service anyway, these 3 points I want to make. The first thing is that we don't really have any form of data at all on what our civil service, public service is all about. We have no idea, numbers, we have nothing. We don't know what is going on in the civil service. So recently I tried to get a document, I won't mention the name of the document right here, in Federal Mortgage Bank. And something that should take 3 weeks ended up taking almost 9 months to get. And you don't know who is who, you don't know where to go to, you don't know what to do. You just say, go and meet this person, go and meet that person, give this person something. You know, it's very frustrating, this civil service. I wish you had data and number to be able to know what is going on. The second thing is we have the civil service in Nigeria is probably one of the most educated civil service in the world, but the least experienced, if that makes any sense. And I also noticed that we have a lot of the civil service in Nigeria is mostly 90% of it, I would say, again, we don't have data, is mostly square peg in round hole. We don't have the right people in the right places, and that is what is causing some of these major problems. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I stand on a business project. Yeah. My name is Dr. Michael Zurumba. I think the issue of public service reform to really conform with quality service delivery in Nigeria actually borders on 2 things. You see, and these 2 things are very important because everyone acknowledges that when our public servants in Nigeria find opportunity in a different client or in a different democracy, they go there and they outperform the person to have locally here. What then is said to be the root cause? You see, there is an adage that the acrobatic smartness of a monkey is because trees are nearer to each other. I tell you, if you keep one tree in Abuja and keep one tree in Lokoja, you discover that the monkey
may just become a business. That's the truth. What we need to do in reforming the public service in Nigeria is to bring the trees together so that our people here function effectively. Have you gone to, I'll give a classical example of my state, even. You come to the state secretariat complex that is housing of military. You see a particular building that is housing like 3 or 4 military. Once they take light, all the ministries, all the in the different ministry directors, they will come down and on their generators. And once these generators come up, tell me what else they such environment. But I think, as I conclude, the good thing about this proposal and the manifesto is what we already know is that every public servant, whether elected or in the civil service, will be brought to earn the same, will be brought on the same salary structure. I think once that is done and achieved, it will help in getting us out of this quagmire. And then getting the workplace, the work environment conducive for the business. If we can achieve this, I think it will help in getting us to where we all dream to be. Thank you.
Why we are here is to discuss this public service. So that we are here to discuss this public service reform work for we keep saying when it comes. Issues that have been raised are very sensitive. But the panacea to this hydra problems that we are looking at may not be as easy to arrive at as we think here. Richmond and all the things we're talking about. We don't get it right from the law. So I will go back to the constitution of the country. I feel the constitution is and not operable. If you listen to about our constitution, you will find that the Islamic constitution is not very elaborate in finding solutions to our problem in Nigeria. The constitution was put together by only 6 people. And as I speak, I still feel that before we could get anything right in this public, we have to go back to the drawing board. We give it our advice to be the council to put this constitution away, hold it away for forever, and try to pick up a newer one and then operate with it. If we say we are going to continue with this one, nothing good will come out of it because we will work according to the laws of the land. And the laws are not really in favor of the masses. The public service cannot collectively work well if we still have this constitution in place. My suggestion is for us to put it away and start on the new place. And within a few months, if we are able to do that, we begin to talk about how to reform the public service. Very well. That's my suggestion. My interest is how to grow the civil service, not from top to bottom, as we recently heard, but how to grow it from bottom to top. My
I have one good example, the INEC. According to the name, INEC is supposed to be independent, isn't it? However, we've noticed that it is the president who appoints the chairman of INEC. In this situation whereby a president appoints the chairman of an organization, your guess is as good as mine where the loyalty goes. It is not a rocket science to know that the appointee will always be the bidding of the person who appointed it. Therefore, I am suggesting if and when the government of Mr. Peter comes into play, that we should fashion a way to make the civil service grow from within, not from outside. Because when you bring in somebody who is not in INEC, for example, to head INEC, automatically he will swing all the loyalty of INEC to the man who appointed him. Where then lies the independence of INEC? To a lawmaker and even put it in writing, he was very excited and he promised to work with it. But unfortunately, he never saw the light of the day because of whatever reason I don't know. So my interest is to see the civil service go from within. When a director goes, or rather, let's start with saying that a director has a deputy director in some cases, or an assistant director in some other cases. If a director retires and leaves, it should be automatic that the deputy director steps into his shoes. In that way, the other man beneath him will work hard and efficiently to reach the level of the deputy or the assistant, so that when it gets to his time, he also will automatically step into the shoes. And not when I have worked for 30, 20 years in an organization, and when it now gets to my time, the president will simply hand big wherever and place it on top of me, and I start taking orders from him. Definitely all the loyalty in the organization, the total of the agency or whatever it is, will swing automatically to the one who appointed the man at the top. And all of us in the answer of the case. In that case, an organization like INEC can never and will never be independent if it continues to grow from outside. But when it starts to grow from within, we will see the independence of INEC because they know that they are working for themselves and not for any other person who will bring an outside education. Thank you very much.